Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about decimal numbers. So let's take a look at what we have for today. So the first thing is IXL. On IXL, you'll notice the decimal section is pretty short. It's pretty small. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do a brief, quick overview of decimals, and then eventually what we're going to work into is using decimal numbers in algebraic equations. So I'm going to have you work on IXL, these four topics, D1, D2, D3, and D4. And I've set the goal at 80% or spending 10 minutes per topic. So if you take a look here at D1, let's just look at this together. So this is just a review of decimal numbers. And again, remember, decimals are how we show parts of the numbers. It's just yet another way of showing a fraction or a piece of a whole number. So for this one, this sort of reviews a lot of different things. So we can see here, it's asking what decimal number is illustrated, and then I have a bunch of these blocks, these like number tiles that are filled in. So obviously these are 10 by 10 squares. These each represent 100 pieces of one whole. So I have 3 whole squares that are filled in, and then one that's part way filled in. So I know my answer is going to be 3 point something. I have 3 whole pieces and then a part of something. Okay, so now I have to figure out of 100 how many are filled in. Now I can sit here and count each individual square, but obviously that would take a really long time. So a quicker way to do this or look at this is count the rows of 10 and count by tens. So I see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows that are filled in completely. So that's really 60. If I'm counting by tens, I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And then in this final row that's partway filled, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a grand total of 64 squares that are filled in. But it's 64 out of 100. Well, if you remember with decimal places, the place right to the right of the decimal, the first decimal place is tenths, and then goes hundredths. So I know that I'm going to have 2 decimal places here, 2 digits after the decimal, and I have to show 64 out of 100. Well, in this case, I'm just going to do 3.64 because that's 64 out of 100. You see there, it's right. Now for this one, it's again out of 100, but now I don't have any whole pieces. So it's going to be 0 point something. This is going to be less than 1 whole. So again, I can count my complete rows. I have 1, 2 complete rows, so that's 20 if I'm counting by tens. 10, 20. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 27 hundredths. Now it's going to give it to me in a different form. I see this as in word form now. I have to write 39 and 8 tenths as a decimal number. An important thing to notice about word form is this word right here, and. When we're talking about decimals, the word and splits up the whole numbers and the decimal numbers. So 39 and something is like saying 39 point something. Think of it as like dollars and cents. I'm saying $39 and 8 tenths. Okay, well 8 tenths, again, it's an 8 in the tenths place, which is that first digit to the right of the decimal. 39.8. This example is asking me in 0.4, which digit's in the tenths place. And again, tenths place is that place right to the right of the decimal. So the 4 is going to be the one that's in the tenths place there. All right? And it's going to ask very similar questions throughout this review of decimals. Now again, I want to illustrate something. Let's just say you get an answer wrong. Okay? So let's just say I see this and I click, and maybe I'm not reading or whatever, and I just say, well, whatever. Instead of just clicking got it right away, take a look at this explanation down here. It will tell you why you got it wrong. Time and time again, I see people that get so frustrated and confused with IXL, and they start saying, what the heck? Oh, it's getting so wrong. read the explanation. It will explain, that's why it's the explanation, it'll explain why you got the answer incorrect. So in this one, again, obviously you see I answered ones, and then the right answer is tenths. But why is the right answer tenths? Well, again, it's talking about place value, and it's going to show me a visual example here of where the correct digit is. Obviously, the 8's in the tenths place. Okay, then you can click got it, like, okay, I understand. So please take your time. Don't just rush through this, because you're going to end up frustrating yourself very quickly. If we go back into the D's, we can see here, the next one says to compare and order decimals. So in this one, we're just dragging and drop. We're sorting from least to greatest. So we have to start with the smallest number. I have 8.26, 9.47, and 8.59. Well, if I think of this in terms of money, think of the least amount of money. Well, the least amount of money is right here, $8.26. That's already in the right place. What's the next highest amount? Is it $9.47 or is it $8.59? Well, obviously it's $8.59. You can just look at the whole numbers in that case. And then last but not least, I have $9.47. Okay, and this is again just sorting. So go by place value. Start with the whole numbers. I see 6 point something, 6 point something, 7 point something, 6 point something. Well, obviously the 7's going to be at the end. And now I look at the tenths place. So I have a 4, an 8, and a 5. Well, if I need to put them in order, then it needs to go 4, 5, 8. Okay, so now in order from least to greatest, I have 6.4, 6.5, 6.8, 7.5. However, look at what the question is asking me to do. It says greatest to least, not least to greatest. So again, this is another one where you have to be careful. Don't just put it in order without checking to see what order you're putting it in, because I have these in order, but it's not in the order that the question is asking for. So if I submitted this, it would be wrong. So you need to make sure that you are putting things in the correct order. D3 is talking about decimal number lines. In this one, we're going to be asked a lot of different things, but they're all going to involve looking at a number line. Okay, so let's take a look at an example here, because this is probably going to be the best way to go over this one. So this is a similar question. It says, find the value of u, write your answer as a decimal number. And you see I have 0 on this side of the number line, I have 1 here, and then I have all these marks in between. So I know that u is going to be somewhere in between 0 and 1. Well, if I look at these ticks, these marks in between 0 and 1, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So this is split up into tenths. So each interval represents 1/10. So basically all we have to do is start at 0, count our way up to the u, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm at 6/10. Since there's 6 intervals or 6 spaces that I'm jumping, that would be 0.6. Okay, let's try it with this example. So again, I see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 equal spaces, so that's split up into tenths again. And I just have to count from 0 to g. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if I just wrote 7, that would be incorrect, because 7 is actually larger than 1. 7 would be way over here on the number line. Remember, this is between 0 and 1, so it's going to be 0 point something. 0.7, because there's 7 spaces in between 0 and g. And then the last example, D4, we're being asked to round decimals. Pay close attention to what place value it's asking you to round to. So here we have the question, what is 97.3 rounded to the nearest whole number? Well, whole number, if you may remember from years past, is another way of talking about the ones place. A whole number is a number that doesn't have any decimals after it. So whenever it says whole number, just think to yourself ones, because we're looking at the ones place. And to properly round a decimal, we have to look to the right. And then we use that old adage from elementary school. 5 and above, give it a shove. 4 below, let it go. So if this number is 5 or above, we're going to bump that 7 up to an 8. But if it's 4 or below, we don't change it at all. So in this case, it's a 3. That 3 is not going to round my 7 up. So my 97.3 rounded to the nearest whole number is just 97. 88.4 rounded to the nearest whole number. Again, we're looking at the same exact place. And if we were thinking dollars and cents, whole number, we're looking at the ones place, or the dollars, just even dollars, no change. Same idea. We look right to the right of the 8. We have a 4. 5 or above, give it a shove. 4 below, let it go. I'm going to let it go because that 4 doesn't do anything to the 8, so it rounds to 88. You can see this is again asking for a whole number, but again, take your time with this. Look at the place value you're being asked to go to, and then follow that. 5 or above, give it a shove. 4 below, let it go. We jump up a level here. Again, it's asking for rounding to the nearest tenth. So the tenths place is where we're looking. Same idea, just in a different place value. Go right to the right. 4 below, let it go. So that 0.91 rounded to the nearest tenth is 0.9. Now we have multi-digit numbers, but again, we're just rounding to the nearest tenth. So it's asking us to look at this first 7 right here. Again, the tenths place is right to the right. To the right of that 7 is another 7. Well, that in fact bumps it up. So 18.774 rounded to the nearest tenth is 18.8. Because this 7 bumps this 7 up to an 8. That essentially is all the decimal topics in IXL for 7th grade. Again, just take your time with these. The goal is 80% or 10 minutes per topic. So take your time with this. If you get it wrong and it's thrown you a bunch of incorrect answers, ask me for help. If you need to, reach out and email me. I'll be more than glad to help you out. But take your time with these because I want to make sure you're really solid with decimals before we move on to the next part, which is using decimals in equations.